The little boy stood in the middle of his bedroom, staring at his open suitcase. It felt like he was packing for a trip to the moon instead of just down the road to Grandma's house. He tucked his favorite stuffed bear into a corner of the bag. "Do you think she has the right kind of pillows?" he whispered. His father knelt beside him, clicking the suitcase shut with a reassuring snap. "She has the softest pillows," his father said softly, "and a house full of stories waiting for you." When they arrived at the little house with the blue door, Grandma was already waiting on the porch. She smelled like peppermint and sunshine. The boy gave his father one last, very tight squeeze before stepping inside. The house felt big and quiet, filled with ticking clocks and the scent of baking bread. Grandma took his hand. "I have a secret corner just for explorers," she said with a wink. The boy gripped his bear a little tighter, wondering if he was brave enough to explore. Grandma led him to a large, carved wooden trunk in the corner of the living room. "This is the treasure chest of yesterday," she explained. When the boy lifted the heavy lid, he didn't find gold or jewels. Instead, he found old spinning tops, a kaleidoscope that turned the world into colorful stars, and a fleet of wooden boats. He realized that Grandma's house wasn't just quiet. It was full of hidden adventures that didn't require a screen or a plug. Later, the kitchen became a whirlwind of white dust. Grandma gave the boy a giant wooden spoon and a bowl of dough. "Cookies for the brave," she declared. They rolled the dough into circles and dusted them with cinnamon. The boy laughed when a puff of flour landed right on Grandma's nose. For a moment, he forgot all about the nervous feeling he had carried all morning. The kitchen was warm, and the oven hummed a happy tune. As the sun began to set, the garden turned a deep, magical purple. The boy stood by the rose bushes, watching tiny yellow lights flicker in the air. "Fireflies," he gasped. They danced around him like little floating lanterns. He tried to catch one in his cupped hands, feeling the gentle hum of the summer evening. The shadows didn't seem scary here. They just seemed like a soft blanket settling over the flowers for a long, peaceful sleep. Dinner was bravery soup, which looked like tomato soup but tasted much more magical. Grandma told him stories about when she was a little girl and how she used to climb the big oak tree in the backyard to try and touch the clouds. "I was nervous sometimes too," she admitted, stirring her soup. "But being brave doesn't mean you aren't scared. It just means you go on the adventure anyway." The boy felt a little spark of strength grow in his chest. When it was time for bed, Grandma led the boy to the guest room. She flipped a switch, and suddenly the ceiling was covered in glowing stars and planets. The boy climbed into the big, soft bed, which smelled like lavender. It wasn't his bed at home, but it felt like a safe nest. He tucked his bear under the covers and looked up at the glowing galaxy above him. The house was quiet, but it was a friendly sort of quiet. Just as the boy started to feel a tiny bit lonely, the door creaked open. Grandma walked in carrying a heavy, patchwork quilt. "This is the comfort cape," she said, spreading it over him. It was made of scraps of old shirts and dresses, each piece holding a memory. It felt heavy and warm, like a long hug. The boy felt the last of his worries drift away as the weight of the quilt settled over his toes. Grandma sat on the edge of the bed and opened a thick book with golden edges. She read about a dragon who was afraid of heights until he met a bird who showed him the view from the treetops. The boy listened to the rhythmic sound of her voice, his eyelids growing heavier with every word. He realized that a sleepover wasn't about being away from home. It was about finding a second home filled with different kinds of love. The next morning, the sun streamed through the window, smelling of pine and pancakes. When the boy's father arrived to pick him up, the boy ran to the door, but not because he wanted to leave. He wanted to show his father the kaleidoscope and the firefly garden. "Can I stay 2 nights next time?" the boy asked, giving Grandma a giant hug. He wasn't a nervous explorer anymore.